First of all,
Hey, I'm just gonna set this over by you guys so it picks up just like in the middle.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So I don't think we have anybody new, but I'm Kristen Heidemann. I'm one of the co-chairs of the CAG group. And my other co-chair, Tom, you want to introduce yourself?
Tom Busselman, property owner down on Houston Road.
And Tom is also the co-chair. And I brought, this is Carmen Ware. She is an intern at the company I work at, also goes to school in Linwood. So she's here to hang out, get some information. Okay, I guess EPA, for everybody's benefit, can you just give us your names one more time?
Yeah, I'm Jessica Evans, Community Involvement Coordinator for the site.
I'm Shaylee Borsani. I'm also a Community Involvement Coordinator. I'm just here training.
Susan Fisher, I'm a section supervisor at Superfund.
And then if you just want to give your names real quick.
Scott T.
TJ Moore.
I'm Carmen.
Kara Wilbanks.
Kara Helms.
Great, thanks guys. Okay, so there's really not a whole lot of updates for any of you that were not. I'll let Jessica talk a little more about this, but for any of you who missed last week, they did a public meeting for the city residents for the 5-year review for the Superfund site. So there really wasn't a whole lot of information other than, hey, this is happening, and it's going to be about a year until that's all said and done. It's a lot of investigation work and research, and they have to go back through the history, and it's a process. So the long and short of that meeting was essentially the 5-year review is here and it's happening. So with that, Jessica, if you want to go into the site updates.
Yeah, so I'll just start with the 5-year review. Like Kristen said, we had the meeting on the 27th. We're working on posting that recording to YouTube. I'll send out the link to that when it's available. Anticipate no later than the end of next week that that'll be posted. And for those of you who weren't there, the purpose of the 5-year review is to ensure protectiveness of the remedy. So that's something that the remedial project manager, JP Curry, and a lot of other people who are involved in the process will work on doing. And it's due no later than July 20th of next year. EPA is holding interviews this fall. We don't have a date yet. But if you're interested in participating in one of those, let me know. My contact information, there's some handouts over there. It's on that. The sign-up sheet is over there as well. And that sign-up sheet kind of just lets us know what days and times of the week work best for you, and how you want to conduct, be interviewed. If you want to do it in person, virtually, over the phone, what your preferences are. So those are available over there. And then the actual questionnaire that we'll be using is also over there. You can send those in. For consideration in the 5-year review, we are asking that folks get those back to us no later than November, I think it's the 20th or 21st. 21st. So we do ask that you guys give those, provide those back to us by November 21st. You can email them to me. My email is on, I think, the questionnaire and the sign-up sheet. You can physically mail them back to our regional office, or you can give them to me at one of the CAG meetings or something, just any way that's most convenient for you to get that information back to us. If you're not able to do it by November 21st, we still want to hear from the community. So if you miss the deadline for whatever reason, it's the 22nd, and you're like, oh, I forgot to turn this into EPA, you can still give them to us. But like I said, once we get a general idea of the week that we're going to be conducting those in person, we'll let you know. And Kara, I know you mentioned before the meeting, maybe doing those at a CAG meeting.
So I don't necessarily think, it doesn't have to be everybody has to do it that way. I think we can just make it an option for people who want to do it at the CAG meeting.
Yeah.
Just so if we're here, we can get it out.
Right.
And not have to come back a different day.
Sure, yeah.
That makes sense. And then if you guys want to do them individually, like before, or after the meeting, or during the meeting, or if there's a couple of you that you want to do them at the same time, we can do that. Or if you want to do them as a group, any way that y'all want to participate in that interview.
And you said we could do the interview record, you said, to individuals and email those to you? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, so the interview record are the questions that we're going to be
Just these,
asking.
okay.
Yeah, so if you'd rather like fill it out on your own and not do like an interview, you can do that and send it back to us as well. And then that would count as like your interview participation. So that's kind of what's going on with the 5-year review right now. And like I said, once we have those dates available, I'll send those out to the CAG and then the community distribution list as well. Other updates, there is a 30-day public comment period right now for operable unit 1. It's for a settlement the information is posted on the Federal Register's website. The 30-day comment period ends on July 17th. And so if you want more information on that, you can let me know, and I can provide that to you. I sent it out to the CAG. I think I sent the press release and the public notice out. The public notice was published in Mid Rivers News Magazine and then St. Charles Community News. So it was sent out in publications as well. And then it was also sent to the CAG and then our email community distribution group. Let's see, for operable unit 4 updates, we're still waiting. Tanya's out right now on leave, and so I know that there's some work scheduled for July. It's direct push technology and then potential monitoring well installation work. We're still waiting to hear back from Ameren on when that's gonna occur. There was a lot of rain here, and so that may it might be a contributing factor. So we'll keep y'all updated. Like I said, Tanya's out, so I know Susan reached out to Ameren.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything back, but with the rain, I'm sure that
And
they're not ready.
Are those wells voluntary on their part, or is that something EPA is asking them to do?
I wouldn't call it voluntary. We asked them to do it, and they pushed back a little bit, and then they're going to do it. But it's not under an order to do it.
Okay, and what was the reasoning behind asking them just delineation?
Yeah, when we did that delineation, when we did a bunch of sampling and kind of delineating the plume a month or two ago, they did some DPT work then, and we felt like there was some missing data. And so we wanted to get those 2 points to see exactly where the plume is going.
Okay.
If it is going that way or not.
And I think it's around that pond,
Yes,
the ponds out there, which makes it difficult.
Yeah, really difficult because it's really wet.
Okay.
And it's a pretty low-lying area, just in general.
Yeah.
I know I sent some information during their quarterly groundwater sampling. Ameren's contractor detected they detected bubbling water in one of the sampling ports. And so they kind of did an investigation, identified methane and lower explosive limit readings at 2 of the piezometers in Houston Road. They're actually located in the roadway. And so there's coordination between EPA, the city, the state, and Ameren. The St. Charles Fire Department did go out, close the road down. I did drive out there right before this meeting, and the road's open, and what they did was just put cones around the piezometers in the roadway so that people can't drive over them, essentially. And Ameren is going to provide Ameren's going to provide a proposal to us to investigate the methane detections a little further, and that's due to us by tomorrow. So
So we still don't know what it's from?
No. Okay, but I know we have USGS looking into it, our hydros are looking into it, and then
We've talked to Ameren for quite a bit and asked them to do some sampling to try to determine
what it's from.
where it's from.
Okay.
And then an update on the technical assistance So again, you guys have a technical advisor assigned to the site that can help with document review, coming out, giving presentations, making fact sheets, things like that. And Kristen, I know you've talked to them about the FFS. That was posted on the site profile page last week along with EPA comments. And so that document, along with our comments, has been provided to the technical advisor to begin their review. So I talked with them earlier this week. They're working on it, and I talked to their program manager, and I think she's going to reach out to you to set up a meeting to kind of see what you want that to look like timeline wise and all that stuff. So
Okay.
I let her know that Tom was, co-chair now too, so she might be reaching out to both of you to set up a meeting. But
And who is that?
her name is Tiffany Reed. She's with our headquarters contractor. And so through that contract, they can provide technical assistance to sites. And so she's like the program manager she's a contractor for EPA. But she's going to set something up, I think, with you and Kristen when she touches base with the technical advisor to kind of discuss that review and everything. The conceptual site model and then the supplemental remedial investigation report have also been posted to the site profile page. EPA provided comments on the conceptual site model back to Ameren, so that has been revised. The revised copy was provided to the city so that they could make comments on it. The city's comments were sent to Ameren, and we are encouraging Ameren and the city to have an in-person meeting to discuss the comments. So we are working on that support for them.
Okay.
EPA would be in the same room?
So we haven't decided who all would be present from EPA. We are working with the same contractors that provide you all the technical advisor to come in and facilitate that meeting. And so EPA has offered that facilitation support to both parties if they wanted to get in a room and discuss those comments, to have like an in-person discussion to make, kind of sort it all out at once instead of trying to go back and forth through emails and everything like that. So that's something that we're working with them on, and hopefully we're like to get that done, soon, so it's not delayed anything. We're not planning to delay anything for this meeting. It's just something that, we're offering both parties they wanted to participate in.
Soon meaning like this year, or
Oh, yeah. I'm talking like weeks, not months or anything.
will that be just like city employees?
So I don't know. We've kind of offered it to both groups. I don't know who
It'll
would
be-
participate.
it'll
Probably
be
technical
technical
folks.
meeting.
Yeah, for sure in the room. And then possibly EPA as well, but we haven't decided. We're waiting to hear back from them on if they're interested in participating in that before we kind of move forward with any planning. So. And then Mike, he's provides support for you all with the CAG. And he is unavailable right now. Our headquarters is reworking their national contract. And so there's like a 6-week lapse in support while they get that contract finalized and then get him back on board. But we're anticipating him to be back next month for you guys as a resource.
Our weekly meetings.
Oh, yep, and EPA does participate in weekly meetings with the city every Wednesday. They're pretty technical in nature. It's really between the technical folks at EPA, so Tanya and JP, the project managers, and then the technical folks at the city. So we have those weekly. We've also have a facilitator that helps with those discussions. Again, she's out for about 6 weeks as they rework that contract. And those have been weekly, but yesterday during the meeting, the city proposed moving those to bi-monthly, so every 2 weeks moving forward. So I don't think we've gotten a decision from them yet. They wanted to go back and verify that with all of the people involved in on their side, but those might be moving to bi-monthly, those technical calls.
Yep.
Okay. And then a lot of documents have been posted on the site profile page. I'm trying to send out links for those to you guys. I know it's really overwhelming how large they are. But just trying to let y'all know what pops up on there so you're aware. That's all I have in terms of updates. Susan, can you think of anything else I may not have covered?
Nope, I think that's pretty much it.
Any questions? Anything? Concerns?
So when you gave your comments back to their FFS, how did they respond?
Amarin?
Yeah,
I know that, yeah, I know they responded to most of them. I don't know like specifically.
okay.
Have they sent the comments back?
Yeah, it's in the revised.
Cameron sent them back?
Oh, not the FFS. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the conceptual site model.
Oh.
Yeah, FFS, they have not.
They haven't
no.
responded yet.
Is there generally, when there's a Superfund site, and, well, I guess most sites don't have an FFS, but there are 53 comments made, is that a large number of comments?
Not necessarily. Sometimes there's more and sometimes there's less. It just kind of depends. So,
Just because it seems like Ameren really is kind of skirting. Well, is there
We've
a
had-
lawsuit, but. I
yeah,
mean,
we've had some with a lot of comments. I mean, how many did we have on that? We had like 10 pages of comments on one.
Oh, really?
On the conceptual site model, there was lots of comments, so it just kind of depends.
Yeah. Okay. So for the July 17th on the OU1 comments back, is that the final done deal with the settlement for that?
So that's a good question. I know that public comments are due by July 17th, and then those comments will be reviewed, and I believe we write a summary, a response. Yeah, a responsiveness summary to those. And then I don't know what happens after that. Do you know?
It's a Department of Justice is really leading that, so
So you guys aren't a part of
we're a part in the negotiations, but they're the final say.
Which is why it's posted on their website, and then comments are submitted to the Department of Justice.
So the comments then that are given to the Department of Justice, after that, then it's up to them to determine if it keeps going, push back or not? It's not on the EPA?
EPA, well, it's EPA puts in their opinion, but it's ultimately the Department of Justice, the DOJ, who determines that.
And do we have, besides the contact information that's on the site, that's our only contact?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Questions? All right. Well, thanks, guys. I guess that's, I guess we'll just have to decide now. I guess moving into our CAG working session, kind of one of the first things I want to talk about is number one, when we want to have that technical person come in. So I guess my first question for you is, when do you think they'll be prepared to do that?
Yeah, and I think that's something they may want to discuss with you and Tom.
Okay.
Of, like timing. I think the technical advisor is out this week. And so once he's able to get in and take a look, he might have a better idea of when the best time to come out and present that would be.
Okay.
But I think that's something that they were gonna talk to you all about.
So I guess I'm gonna kind of skip around a little bit, but what we, I guess, need to decide whether we want to stick with bi-monthly meetings, or if we want to throw in a September meeting. I guess with the FFS being posted, I guess I don't really know how long that process is gonna take as far as like Amarin responding. So it might be a better idea to kind of plan for it'll be a really full meeting in October, which is my only concern. Because I was also kind of thinking about the interviews. And if we do CAG interviews also at that meeting, that's gonna be a lot of material. So just kind of something, and we can circle back and talk about that at the end of the meeting, but just something for all of you to think about if we want to potentially have a September meeting or not. So with that said, let's jump back up to the communication outlet thing. This is kind of one of the first things I want to talk about. So I finally have some help at work now. I have an intern and we got a new associate, so I can focus my time a little bit more on this and won't be so absent from here on out. So as far as a Facebook page, I am not on social media, but I know you're heading that. So I'm taking notes here, and I want to do better about, after we have these meetings, just posting like a summary of like, hey, here's what happened, bullet. So I'm going to kind of get in the habit of just maybe Friday night or on the weekend, just sending out an email to everybody and being like, here's what we talked about in the meeting. I'll probably do that Friday. And then if anybody else has anything they want to add, and that way we can keep that, just things being posted. So I guess with that, do we see any need to expand out from Facebook at the moment, or do we
I think we have Twitter too.
Twitter, right? Okay. Do we see a need to expand any further? Because again, I want to keep, like, the number one priority is keeping the community invested in this, or it will not end well for us. So I'm struggling with the outreach here and just how to go about that.
I do have 2 local TikTokers that are on environmental pages that are posting about it now.
Okay. So that was going to be my main question, is about TikTok, especially for the younger generation.
And that's Brightly, if you guys want to look it up. Brightly is the environmental TikTok page that kind of covers all the TikTokers and pays them to do stuff, but these individuals are doing it freely.
Okay.
Brightly,
Brightly Eco
okay.
is what it's called, and they're just taking the links straight from EPA in the meetings and posting it. They're not writing their own stuff. It's just what is off the site.
Okay. Because that was going to be one of my things. I know we had talked about earlier, just kind of controlling the narrative a little bit and making sure that people aren't like just commenting random things on behalf of the group.
Yeah.
So as long as it's just informational, that's helpful. But that was one of the main things I was going to bring up, is, do we want to venture into TikTok, and would that help get more involvement?
Unless you already had a following. And that's why these individuals that are already doing it have like 300 million, not 300 million, 3 million followers already.
Yeah.
So I could see it helping them for local area, but starting a new TikTok and trying to do that, that's gonna be a waste of time.
Really? Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Okay. That's good to know.
Well, I don't know if we'll get any younger people.
I'm not on TikTok.
I'm not on it either, so that's
I'm
why.
not a TikTok scroller.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I guess for now, we'll just stick with that.
Yeah, at some point usually it's valuable. Who knows, TikTok is going away. So.
Right.
I was trying to
We'll
get
see what
a billboard too for like big town meetings like we had last time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I called Monty to kind of see how that works with the CAG. Because normally I thought they're given a certain budget, at least from the city, depending, or somehow.
I think the city gets space on the digital billboards.
And then that's
So
where
they were probably advertising. So.
I contacted who Monty gave me information to. I forget her name. And I never heard back from her. So that's something I thought would help greatly.
Yeah.
And it was fairly cheap, I thought, $500 for that LED billboard for 1 week. but you're sharing that billboard with 20 other ads. See, it's not that much every time, but it's something.
Yeah. And I wonder, like those, I saw they had the, traffic, like, I can't think of what they're called, but like the digital signs.
Yeah.
Just the
And they
sign.
had posted those all over for one of those public meetings, and I mean, I'm sure that's cost money, and so that was gonna be one of the things I had, one of the city people in here, I was gonna ask them that. But I am gonna bring that up in the next task force meeting about how we, because I feel like that was really helpful, just people driving by those signs. So I think I'm gonna bring that up in the next task force meeting about how we implement that effort again, or what's entailed with that. But yeah, that's a good note on the billboards.
And they were pretty quick. They're like, if you send me something right now, or tonight, or tomorrow morning, we'll have it up and running within like 20 minutes. So it's pretty quick.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
And all I was gonna send them was the flyer for the meeting without the QR code, because you're not gonna be able to
Right.
QR code the billboard, but
Yeah,
it was just something to get something out there.
sure. And you said that, so what is the cost on that?
It was $500 for a week. And you're sharing it with 20 other ads, so your times, I forget how much they said that it's aired.
I wonder if that's something the city would print.
So I tried, but I didn't get
Yeah.
a response from her.
Yeah,
You just tried out to Beth.
I think it was with Beth, I think, yeah.
So we have digital, we have spaces we sell to our members, I would say. We split it between 30 businesses, each get like 1,200 a month, so it's probably 30,000+ exposures. They divide by 4 for a week. So yeah, this is probably 8,000. It's on the billboard probably over that next time.
Well, it's more than I thought it was gonna be.
It's like it's probably, I think most of them have 8 or 9 spots on the billboard and rotate. If they rotate, so it's every 10 seconds, so roughly, I don't know, every minute to minute and a half, get your
Yeah.
billboard up there.
okay.
Are you just talking to attract to the CAG meetings or the FFS meeting? Because I mean,
It will mainly be that, I mean,
because we can get the news involved for the FSS, and that'll be free.
yes, right.
And especially if we can get the city to, I'm sure they're gonna put out a press release, and then the news will come calling.
So I wonder if it would be beneficial for us to, when they do announce that public meeting for the FFS, we need to have something put together that we can hand out for the CAG group at that public meeting.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like a,
Meeting times or.
List the dates. and
just
times.
what, like, please, like, welcome, if you're interested, please join our CAG group, and just like, maybe a link to our Facebook page or just whatever. I think that's, do you have a general idea on when that public meeting is gonna happen?
The FFS?
Yeah. I mean, are we talking like 6 months, like, just a general?
It's gonna be months, yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking into it, like, before the end of the year?
I don't know.
We have the conceptual site model, which we were just talking about this yesterday. It's like, we have all these reports up in the air, and so we need to get a conceptual site model done first.
Yeah, before you can do anything else, yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay,
Just
so,
the FFS, this first revision, or this first version, EPA has requested that Ameren provide 2 documents by August 1st, and then the updated FFS 2 weeks after that.
Because
so they're not even gonna have it in hand until the end of the month.
Because we know the conceptual site model has to go first.
Yeah.
So we gave them leeway.
Okay. And if there's issues with that conceptual site model, that will delay everything. Okay. So
We're
probably
trying to
not
stay on
before the-
schedule, but I'm not gonna guarantee it.
Yeah, I get
Because
it.
we want to get it right.
Yeah,
So is there even a, because I've talked to Tana before, and I thought about the FFS. And I feel like if you talk to them again, I mean, you can touch base with them, but just a quick base, because you're gonna probably have to talk to them again to figure out a date.
right. I was more just thinking about timing for, I guess, the CAG group and just when we would be able to get that out to the public. But realistically, we're not looking at another public meeting until probably after the new year, it sounds like. Is that,
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we can provide you all updates. I think it depends on the quality of documents that we get, like back for the revisions.
which so far hasn't been great, so I'm not
So it
optimistic.
kind of just
Yeah.
depends on how much back and forth there is.
And I'm assuming, like, you're not gonna do one for the conceptual site model?
The public meeting?
Yeah, public meeting,
I don't think so.
that's what I,
Do you, Susan?
I don't think so, but I thought we were going to have a technical person for the conceptual site model.
I mean, we could if
Or
you
was that
wanted,
just the
if you,
FFS?
it was just for the FFS.
Right.
But if you all wanted him to look at the conceptual site model, do that too. We just need to put it on their contract to do that,
yeah, that probably wouldn't
if
be,
that would be helpful.
it would be helpful, just to
And that
kind
way
of,
somebody would come
break
up
it down.
before the FFS and
sure,
explain at least.
And that's the Mike individual?
That would be, his name's Brian. Yeah.
okay, so. But yeah, okay, so going back to, we wouldn't be able to actually get anything in the public's hands until after the new year, it sounds like. Which makes me think even more so, we should keep it bi-monthly for now. Just for telling me this. And site conceptual model review for the CAG meeting definitely be great, but it sounds like the public is not gonna get that. Is that right?
So the public they're invited to the CAG meeting.
Sure, right.
So we could always, I mean, they're invited anyway. But if you wanted to have a separate meeting, we can look into that if you think it would be beneficial, or just having it.
It's not, I'm just trying to figure out how we would get the word out about it
Yeah.
before, because you know that's gonna be before the FFS, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
And we could do our general like means of communication, send it to you all, send it to the email distribution group, post it on our social media sites and everything.
Hand out flyers and.
Yeah, we'll create like a meeting flyer.
that's, you know,
They said they wanted to do that.
that's not a
booth,
terrible idea,
But then they
actually.
shot it down quickly.
What was that?
So at that work task force meeting, they wanted to do the booth, which I get why they shot that down.
Oh, right.
But if you're just handing out flyers that have
Is that allowed?
the QR code with the EPA,
Where
Festival, like if we did it like Festival of Little Hills.
Festival of Little Hills, you probably won't get to get the boards.
approval.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
Also, I wonder, is it something that we could produce and put in frequented businesses, like at gas stations or something? Like, is that allowed?
Yeah, so before the last meeting, I went and made flyers for that town meeting. And I went to all the local businesses around and gave them flyers and asked if they would post the meeting notice on their doors and everything. Almost all of them did it. Gas stations were the ones that said no, because they're not locally owned.
Yeah,
But the locally owned ones did do it. So they didn't want me standing out there and handing out flyers though.
yeah,
They
that
just
makes
set
sense.
them on their counters. But
I just wonder how beneficial that really is, or if it's just a waste of ink and paper.
well,
Like, I wonder, did anybody actually take them?
three people that came to that meeting said they saw those flyers.
Really?
The older
Okay.
couple that were sitting in front of me said they saw the flyer, and that's why they came.
Okay, well, maybe that's not a terrible idea then.
That was two people.
I mean, but that's better than,
Better than nothing.
Yeah. and I mean, that public meeting for, the 5-year review was just not well attended. And so I'm looking at that and going like we're not getting word out because nobody knew about this or nobody cared.
Well,
So-
it was a debate too, right?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. But,
Yeah, that was.
okay, so city billboards is an option, flyers.
So it won't be a booth that's Festival of Little Hills. Just be like,
Yeah, and it sounds like we're not gonna be allowed to even hand out flyers or anything either. Which doesn't surprise me, because otherwise everybody would do it, and I get it. So I guess, do we have any kind of budget for any of this? So this would all be,
city budget.
yeah,
Sound awesome.
I could ask if like, meeting logistic and support is covered under like the contractor. Either Mike or Brian, like if there's resources to do that. I don't know, I know they would produce something. I don't know if they would pay for like a billboard. I don't know if they would pay for.
well, I was more talking about like, can we just have like 3,000 flyers printed up that we could then like just take around and drop off to places? Like, would they do that for us?
Yeah, I've printed flyers for like Westlake and given them to the CAG and they go around and.
I mean, just kind of like what she's talking about, like post them on business stores and.
Yeah, I printed.
Yeah, I didn't do 3,000. I think I did like 200.
But you know, like.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that and then they go out and post them on doors and things like that.
If we
so.
do have to print them ourselves, do it at the library, it's way cheaper.
Yeah.
I have a laser printer that I'd be willing to.
Do you have farmers markets?
Yeah,
That is a good idea.
that is a good idea.
Do you go to Lake St. Louis one all the time? I know that's farther, but a lot of people in St. Charles go to that one.
Go to that one. And there's one,
What, the Boundary,
where is it?
Boundary Arts Center,
Yeah,
I think it's changed.
well, and then the Soulard's the huge one. But that's pretty far out. But
I would
Who
get
you
out
getting there?
flyers at.
Right, yeah.
Are you getting St. Charles people?
yeah, probably not. They're all going out to Lake St. Louis, like she said.
That
What's
one's
the difference though between handing out there and handing out at festival?
It's a festival.
It's a festival, yeah.
Would they wouldn't let you do it?
I would talk
At
about
At a farmer's market, they'll
Farmer's
probably,
market.
it depends on how much their booths are, they'll probably let you, I mean, I used to run a farmer's market, they just want people to come and buy their vegetables. And you know, it's like you're handing something out and talking to them, they're not gonna, I wouldn't think they would care, but I don't know. So I'm in a smaller town than this, so.
I can try. Well, what would you guys want us to hand out then? Just like.
Again, I'm just going.
Information for the CAG?
Again, like whenever we do decide to have this conceptual site model technical expert come into the CAG, like that's something that we could make a flyer for and be like, hey, really important, community meeting. We're gonna have a technical expert in to talk about all these things, and make it a pretty flyer and just post that, like,
Well, the farmer market's end of August?
end of August, yeah. Well, okay, so it's good to know, I mean, at least we could potentially get something printed. Okay.
There's so many ways people.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just TV, radio, and newspaper anymore, it's like everything.
I think, you've got a lot of time involved if you make flyers and you try to hand them out to people. If you would just pick up your phone and hit the sites, and share it on your own page, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But I mean, for me, I find it hard to even go to the site and see what's going on.
And I know the
I think
city
that's
has
what
social media, I don't know if they would, But if they, they could post information on their social media. Again, you'd have to get approval from them, obviously, but.
Right, you're talking about the EPA? Or
The
no?
city, like,
city.
has a social media. I think
That
they- I
was
think
something
they-
I was questioning too, on why they have never posted on any.
We've asked them about that. Yeah,
Because that last one, I didn't see them post anything about it.
They put in their newsletter.
They put it in the newsletter, but they didn't put it on their Facebook. They they didn't do it? No, I didn't see it then.
You only get like one, like.
I need to keep scrolling and looking, and then
Well, they
every time-
post like 20 times in 2 days.
I saw.
Yeah,
all
that
of
doesn't
the
help
It's like your
little
algorithm or whatever.
Yeah,
what-
I
what-
saw
they have a
all
lot
of
of
the
material on their.
Do they?
Yes, it's a lot.
Have you guys tried Facebook groups?
That,
Like St. Charles, I know, because I'm only here like 9 months out of the year. But I know St. Charles has one that's like, what's going on in St. Charles? That, yeah, that just shares, anything that really is going on, so.
Yeah, if you make a flyer, I'll pass it out through my Facebook groups.
okay.
Okay.
And maybe maybe that's the better way to do it, is share it and just,
I posted on the mushroom group. Missouri mushroom.
nice,
I'm like,
nice,
They like water.
yeah,
If you send an email and I can take a picture of it, or if I can copy it somehow and put it on Facebook, I'll take it to what's happening in St. Charles.
yeah,
And
yeah,
say, hey, let's get involved and maybe list, other,
Mhm.
groups, stuff like that.
okay. So maybe the better option is to create just a digital flyer and have people, like, again, we can talk to business owners about sharing it, especially local business owners.
Yeah, the week of, I can go down and do the same thing again too. Just give them a new flyer, post on your doors and you can, if you want to.
Okay. Okay, well,
Did you say you did something with the community news and Rivers News Magazine? What was that? You said-
So that was a public notice for the comment period for the
Probably the reason
settlement.
why we could reach out and send a news release saying our meetings are on this day. That would probably be,
for the newspapers, you mean?
yeah, just those two community newspapers, Rivers News Magazine. And Community News.
Okay.
I don't know the post, but it's in there. I ended it there.
Yeah.
So we just, yeah.
I'm surprised Mid Rivers posted it just because they're not St. Charles, but
They cover St.
close
Charles.
enough, I guess.
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, they cover St. Charles.
Okay. Okay, well, that's some new options at least. Okay. I guess let's move on. Okay, so also I have had some conversations with a few people. There is still a lot of complaints about the site profile page and how difficult it is to navigate. And I really do think that's turning people away from interest. So I know you have no control over that, and I'm sure it's probably a coder somewhere putting all that together, but if there's any way to make that easier to read and more,
So you think like a different layout would be helpful?
I
I mean,
really
we can
do,
only control like the actual content. We can't, it's set by headquarters. And so there's only so many changes we can make. Like, I know Carrie, you suggested us having headers for the operable units. And then like recently added documents. So we did do that, but I still know that there's a lot of documents on there. And like even like on the site profile page, all the collections, right, where everything's stored, we can't really change much of that.
okay,
And so, we try to keep the announcements updated. I try to keep the recently added documents updated, but there's also, you can't put like really more than like 10 or 15 because then it's just like,
it cycles them out.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
It also
something
doesn't
that,
help you've had a lot of documents
Right,
posted
yeah.
in the past like 3 weeks.
exactly, yeah, so
And
like
I've heard a
pop-
couple people be like,
they pop up and then they change so quickly, because I usually try to keep it around 10 unless like it's something like the FFS or something, I want to keep that on there. But
okay,
yeah, I've looked at how to do it differently, and there's just not a whole lot of control that the regions have on
Okay.
it.
okay,
But if
so,
people have ideas of things that we could do, I can look in to see if we could do them. But really, it's just the actual content that we have control over, not like the actual layout or the tabs.
yeah, I mean, essentially, it's just a big document repository
Yeah.
right now.
And there's a
It's just hard
lot,
to
there's a
navigate.
lot on there, and a
Yeah.
lot, like you said, gets added all the time right now because of the document reviews and things going back and forth.
Okay, really don't have any good answers about how to rectify that problem, but I do know, and I know Monty has said that that's like one of the biggest complaints they have. So I guess when we do make social media posts, I guess we'll just be,
More direct.
yeah, and more adamant about which document, like,
Yeah.
check this one out. It's written, it's titled this, and take the exact title off the site profile page, so
Yeah,
it's
'cause
easy
you
to
can-
search.
Copy and paste the link.
There's
Yeah,
usually,
Okay,
Yeah, so if you click on it, there's a specific link for that document that you can take and pull out and add it.
okay,
Because that's what I do when I send your weekly emails. I just pull the name of the document and then the direct link to it.
okay.
Has EPA reviewed that YouTube video that's getting out there?
So the one I think that was on that flyer, that was the video by, I think it was by our Office of Inspector General.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's public. I think it's just like a general site overview video.
Yeah, it was very informative.
Yeah.
But that's where I was like, legally though, getting that more out there, is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's publicly available,
And-
yeah.
And it was accurate, so that's where I didn't watch and fact check everything though, so that's where I was kind of curious.
so, so it was on YouTube,
And it goes,
it's probably on Facebook too, probably, you just put it on YouTube.
I don't know if they posted it on Facebook or not.
Can we post that?
I think I just YouTubed, because you said something about that night and I didn't have the code. I think I just went on YouTube and looked at. and it
yeah,
came
it
up.
was the top video that came.
And it was you looked at the OIG one too, Susan?
Yeah. That was really good.
I did not make it, but I wish I did.
Wish we had that for every site.
All right, well, I guess is there any other comments, questions, anything on as far as social media outreach efforts? We've got some new things. I've got some new things written down, so
I got a question still about the July 17th OU1. So how do we find out more information on what happens after that? Do we just have to wait till after July 17th and then they review?
Yeah, I think so. And we'll just keep you updated.
Yeah, because
essentially with that, we're just trying to sway the court.
That was like
That's all that is.
300,000.
The court made a decision, and the public then has the chance to respond to that decision, essentially, and say, hey, this is a bad decision, we don't agree, here's why. We can
So-
comment on that, and then they take it back. The
And
EPA
we
then
have to
puts together a
respond to
summary.
the either EPA or DOJ have to respond to the comments on that.
So is that
So when
something-
you submit a comment, it does get looked at and it has to be responded to and addressed. Like we have to look at it and respond to it. And then that responsiveness summary is made public, right, Susan?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the 17th is next week.
Right.
So should that be something the CAG kind of gets out there on the Facebook page and?
The public comment. Can we make a note about the
Yeah,
public comments for the settlement in OU1?
yeah, the press release kind of describes it a little bit and it has the links
I
to the
guess
Federal
or
Register
yeah, just post a
website.
press release.
Yeah,
That works.
it had the
Yeah, that's
link and the phone number and the individual, your contact.
Yeah, and all the information is
put
on
my
the Federal
phone on
Register's website, so.
I called the number, but I never got through.
but I haven't tried again, and it was right after you sent it though, so I don't know if it just wasn't up and running yet, or.
Yeah.
Is that a DOJ number or?
Yeah, it should, it was the one number on the DOJ website,
Yeah,
right?
it was on that settlement page, yeah. But like we were saying, I'm gonna try again tonight and then try to email to see if I can
Yeah.
get feedback.
Yeah, just use the contact information that's on the Federal Register website. They're the ones that you submit comments to.
Okay.
Yeah.
To DOJ.
Anything else on that front? Good deal. Moving on. I guess as far as the email distribution list, we don't have any changes, right? Is there anybody that,
I don't think I'm on.
you're still not on it?
I'll add you. She's on the
okay.
community distribution list.
Okay.
She's not on the CAG
Okay.
distribution list yet.
Let's definitely get her.
I'll add you
Okay.
before I send out the update tomorrow.
And I was gonna say, nobody else has, anybody new at the moment, right, that we need to add or take off? Okay. Good. Are you good with that? You don't, email distribution list, like you don't need any updates for that, right? Okay. I was gonna say, nothing's changed except for,
Yeah, I'll get her added.
Okay.
And then there's the community distribution list too, so if you talk to folks and they want to be added, they just can email me directly.
Okay.
I'll add them to that.
Okay.
And they don't get the weekly updates, but they get like the press releases, the public notices, the meeting, like they got for this meeting, they'll get, meeting stuff too.
okay. How many people are on that? Do you know?
I can look. Maybe 20.
That's it, really? Not for a city of 70,000.
It's summer.
Okay.
And I like that.
And I think Kara's on it. I think you both are on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
rough. Okay.
I think, you're
Yeah,
on
I'm
it?
on the community one. It's like I get all.
So you're getting everything twice?
Yeah, I get all the meeting ones.
Could we, at the FFS meeting, could we have a sign up for that community distribution, like at the table when you come in? The sign up sheet, because I think that's a good way to get people actually on the list.
Yeah. There's 25 people on the list.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on to, so I guess the last thing is whether we want the technical assistance for the conceptual site model, and I think we do want to do that. And with that, since it sounds like FFS is going to be a minute, I think we're probably good for now to keep it bi-monthly. That being said, October, we'll have to include anybody that wants to do their interviews here. So I think we should probably do that at the end. And then we can hopefully conceptual site model technical.
In October?
Yeah, would that be a
We
possibility?
can talk to the contractor about it and see kind of gauge where it is at that point.
Okay.
Make a decision.
It would be helpful for us, I'm just thinking, because then our next meeting in December, it would give us a chance to kind of discuss it. And I'm thinking probably shortly after that, we'll see the FFS. So does anybody have any thoughts about that? Concerns about that plan?
No, if it can happen, let's do it.
Okay. So everybody's still okay with Thursdays?
I think it'd be October
So it's just
10th for the second Thursday.
October 10th.
That's the next meeting?
Yeah. And Jessica, I promise I'll be better about talking to Beth.
You're good.
Same location.
Yeah, we're gonna try to keep it here. This is a nice big room, and we've got audio visual, so, yeah. I'm just gonna keep it here unless we have a conflict.
And that's just for the next CAG?
Yeah, and so for that meeting, we're gonna try to have the technical assistance person here to talk about the conceptual site model for everybody. Again, pending the meeting with them and how that, we'll talk to them about that. And then the other big item will be interviews, anybody that wants to do their interview at that meeting. So again,
What are those interviews called again? Sorry.
They're just the 5-year review, community interviews.
Okay. And that's gonna be over OU, the Ameren site, or the?
No, it's just over operable units 1 through 3.
Okay.
5-year reviews don't include operable units where the construction of the remedy has not started yet. So because it hasn't started for OU4, it's not included in the 5-year review.
And the site model is for which areas?
The conceptual site model is for operable unit 4, so for Ameren,
For him?
for the Ameren.
And that's one we should really try to get people to come to.
I mean, I think so because it's not part of the 5-year review. So it will not be included. Well, I'm assuming you're not gonna include it in the FFS, right?
What?
OU4
OU4 and the FFS?
in the FFS,
Yeah,
is that,
that's for operable unit 4.
it will be for OU4.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
supplemental remedial investigation report, the conceptual site model, and the focus feasibility study, that's all for operable unit 4. So that's all for the Ameren substation.
So I guess, the conceptual site model will set up the FFS. And all decisions will be basically made off that conceptual site model. And so that's why I say it would be good for everybody to hear that kind of in layman's terms, just so we can kind of digest that, because then once we see that the decisions they make on the FFS, that, to me, that's gonna be, I think, where the community is either going to be heated or satisfied, because that will really determine what Ameren is required to do from this point forward.
Right.
But if the public doesn't understand the conceptual site model, none of the rest of it will make sense.
It's definitely a
So-
good precursor to
It
learn
is.
more about what's going on.
Yeah. Because the other thing that I think is gonna confuse a lot of people is the 5-year review is kind of separate, but happening at the same time. And I think people are gonna get confused about that. So,
Yeah, and two, the 5-year review has nothing to do with OU4.
Right.
So that's very
well,
confusing.
yet, and so that's my question is,
Yeah.
yet,
Yeah.
until you guys determine it's a commingled plume, and then what happens?
I think it has to do with when OU4 has the remedial, has
It's
the
the
rod,
construction of the remedy, I think.
construction of the remedy. Yeah, so it's all about the construction of the remedy. Even if it's determined it's a commingled plume, you still
Yeah.
have to construct the remedy for OU4.
So I guess my question is, but Ameren's gonna come back and say, well, we're not responsible for, 70% of this contamination is not ours. It's the Superfund, or this is the plume, our plume is mingled with their plume, and, you can't expect us to clean up all their, that's what I anticipate the fight being.
Oh,
I thought they did do part of putting the barrier up past all,
They did do that.
I thought
That's kind of a temporary,
but that was part of it, right?
the barrier was it's a temporary fix. It's not.
It's a
not
Band-Aid.
anything, yeah, it's a Band-Aid. It's something that they do outside the process, the remedial process, to temporarily throw that in and kind of halt the movement of the plume while you go through the whole process. So that is just a temporary fix.
they're just trying to keep it from spreading while they make decisions.
And it's confusing because then you have the 5-year review, which is on OU1, OU2, and OU3. And then you have OU4 over here that's not part of the 5-year review. But we have all this stuff going on at OU4, and then you have the OU3 plume over here. And they have to if it's commingled, they have to prove that. I mean, and if they prove it, then how they work that out, I mean, that's still an enforcement thing.
And how are they gonna prove it? Because it's the same chemicals. And that's what I, like, right? And so I just anticipate them coming back and saying, you can't hold us responsible for all of this because you have proof that it wasn't, that a large portion of the contamination came from OU1, right? Because I mean, OU3 is essentially the result of OU1, basically, right?
Mhm.
So, they have proof that a large chunk of that contamination came from OU1, it's documented. And so then my question becomes, then what happens? Because does OU4 get wrapped all up in that super fund? Does it all become one plume then? Do they just become a PRP of?
Not usually. I mean, I guess they could.
You'd rather.
Because there's two different source areas.
Yeah, they're two different source areas. You
Different
still have the
PRPs.
OU4 source area. Still have the OU4.
So you would still require them to treat the source probably, right?
Mhm.
But then, so after that's done,
If it's commingled, then they have to, if they come back and say it's commingled, they have to work that out. But
but I guess that's what I'm asking is that's a legitimate argument on their front.
Ameren has to take care of their own source area, and then they have to clean up the contamination. Yeah.
Would they work that out with Santa Loops, or would they work that out with EPA?
OU3 group.
Yeah, so it would
Santa
be,
the
Loops is
O3 group.
OU1, which is really confusing.
Okay,
So
so now
OU1
that,
group is Santa Loops,
okay.
okay? And then you have the OU3 group, which is
a bunch.
a bunch.
Whole bunch of them, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a big group. If you look at, there's some big names.
Is that where the Melon?
It's like
Fry-
Bayer, yes,
Yes.
Oh,
Monsanto.
Okay, so
all
that
of them.
was on the list then. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was just for 3 and then OU1 was for Santa Loops.
Yeah.
So then that settlement for Santa Loops is just for OU1?
Yeah.
So then OU3 is already done past a 5-year review, so there's no.
No, OU3 still,
A
they
part
are,
of the 5-year review.
yeah,
They are part
they're
of it?
they're part of the 5-year review, and they have a remedy, but we're asking them to relook at that.
And that's why there's not a settlement for that?
Yeah, we would, yeah, they have to clean, yeah.
Okay.
It's so complicated.
Yeah,
A lot of
that's
it
another
depends on-
wrench in it.
A lot of it depends on their ability to pay.
Right,
Okay,
because
so
that's what you guys were saying the last.
that's the first thing we do is EPA does enforcement first. So it's all about the ability to pay. We go through all their financial documents and everything. And so any kind of remedial or removal action that EPA ends up, if we pay for it, we went through that with the responsible party, their ability to pay.
Gotcha.
So you have OU1, which is Santa Loops, which has an ability to pay schedule paperwork on. Then you have OU3, which is a bigger group, and they have a big ability to pay
I'd say.
paperwork. And then OU4.
That is correct.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes way more sense, because I was curious on why.
That's why the 300,000 is Santa Loops.
Gotcha.
So out of curiosity, is the reason those operable units separated out, was it for that reason? For the PRP responsibility? Because again, OU3 is a result of OU1, basically. I mean, it's the spread from what they didn't treat.
I don't know
So
why they divided it that way.
I bet that's why. I bet it's because OU3 can actually pay. And if I remember, that Santa Loops company is small, right?
Well,
I mean, they're like
they were partnered with Boeing and with Bayer.
partnered or contractor for, very different.
It sounded like they were a partner,
Okay,
because they did all the mechanical loops for all the equipment and machinery. So
They're
that's
probably contractors.
they're probably a contractor.
So that's where I thought maybe, but.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's why, because EPA
It
knows
could
they
be.
can go after OU3 a little bit more.
I can ask and I don't know if I'll get the answer by tomorrow, but I can provide it in one of the.
I really was just curious about why they were separated out. And again, OU2 I get, because that was kind of remediated
right.
Yeah, that was like a.
soil
Yeah.
removal for PHs, right? Or
PCBs.
PCBs, yeah.
Not to divert the conversation, with from the town meeting, when they were talking about the piece of equipment that was gonna be out there, the pull stuff and run it through water.
The
The gas
groundwater
system.
extraction treatment system.
That.
Yeah.
When did that go, is that in works to be put on
That-
site?
Are you talking about the groundwater extraction treatment system? So that is currently already there, yeah.
At OU1.
Yeah, that's already been installed.
Oh, okay. So that's already up and running. Okay.
It's been running for a long time.
Oh, really?
Well, not a long, long time, but EPA put that in.
And that's one of the remedies for review. It's like, hey, we put this system in and it's not working, or it's not working enough, or it's,
So that's
Yeah.
why they talked about that in his presentation.
Yeah,
Because
that's part of the
five-year
five-year review, that
Okay.
they'll go in and look at that.
I thought it was a suggestion for EPA to what they could do next.
No, what you might be referring to is the operable unit for the, I think it was an air stripper that,
That's.
that they were going to, and then an agreement was made to include that as a contingency.
Okay.
So that has not been installed.
Oh, on the
For
city
operable
property?
unit 4, yeah, where they were gonna install an air stripper, and then they came to an agreement that they were just gonna use it as a contingency.
and so now they have that carbon system in place, which will do the same thing that air stripper does, basically. Good deal. Okay, anybody got anything else? We're really early, so does anybody else have anything they want to discuss? Are you sure? Okay.
Until I talk to the DOJ.
Keep talking.
It'll work out eventually. You can ask as many questions as you want. You can contact Jess by email.
Oh, I'm sure I've already annoyed her.
No, that's,
Not as much as me.
20 years
And I'm
ago,
laid off, so you need to start.
Yeah.
20 years ago, I sat at a meeting with EPA, and the decision was to make, OU3 and let the sand do what it would do.
Right.
Okay. Now we're saying that did not do expectations
we're saying it's not cleaning it up fast enough.
fast enough.
So I think they had a 20-year time frame, and
They're not meeting that.
Right.
Okay.
so that's gonna be evaluated as part of,
Yeah, in the 5-year, right. And the combing that you talked about, definition of that,
The commingle?
Yeah.
So, so you have the OU3 plume, which has affected one well, I believe, on the city property. And then you have the OU4 plume, and they may be together. Do you have a map?
Yeah.
Yeah, she can explain it, yeah.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
So you have this plume, and they're like
they're
touching,
joining.
they're joining, they're kind of
Okay.
dancing together, yeah.
Back when they drilled on my property, one time for the OU3, they expanded, they did drilling and finding what was in the ground at a certain point. And then they came down years later and said, we want to drill again because we're looking north more.
Mhm.
And that's when they found the Amarin.
Right.
Now, the Amarin, to my knowledge, is different than 1, 2, or 3.
yeah, so Amarin is a separate operable unit, so it's currently
It
separate.
has a different source area.
Right, different
Yes.
source area and different responsible
Different
party.
source,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, different source. It came from a different place, but it's still a volatile organic compound, It's still a VOC. So,
And that's the hard part, it's the same, and that's what I was saying, it's the same chemicals that's in some of the same
you can
chemicals.
forensically, I'm sorry, my blood sugar is probably going up, so she's gonna go crazy.
Good dog.
you can forensically date that, the PCE and help determine where it came from. You can do that forensically by taking samples. We've done it at other sites. Our Office of Research and Development has done that. So it is possible to tell where which one came from.
That's good. I mean,
Based on the DNA of the PCE, basically.
And the 20 years that, approximately 20 years of OU3 has gone by, and we're going to look at it again. What about 4? Now, the first time 4, well 4 was shut down in area plume 4 was like 2003 maybe.
We won't look at that as a 5-year review until after the construction is done in OU4 area for the remedy. And then that sets the timeline for the 5-year review.
And
That'd be 5-year review from, the 5-year timeline starts at construction complete.
construction
Right.
complete.
I'll have to look into
We'll have to
exactly
double
when it
check.
is.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
I'll have to double check for that, because I can't remember.
Would you stop?
I mean, there's been a lot done in OU4 already to put a Band-Aid on, let's say.
Mhm.
So how long are we gonna have to wait until we know that the Band-Aid didn't work, is working, or we need a bigger Band-Aid?
Well, that's all part of the conceptual site model. So they're looking at the plume in big picture. They're looking at horizontal and vertical plume, the horizontal and vertical plume and how it's moving and where it's moving to. And it's based on those barrier walls. And so then they do, based on that model, they look at that and they come up with remedies. What are they going to do to clean up that contamination? They're going to look at, well, they've looked at several different ways to clean it up, and one is barrier walls. If they can show that the barrier walls are being effective, they would put that in the feasibility study saying, hey, we want, part of our cleanup is barrier walls. We want to use those barrier walls. The problem is that they put in the barrier walls really fast. So they didn't do it under EPA's permission. We don't have any construction diagrams or anything else. If say that one of say barrier walls were considered, then we would have to look at the construction of the barrier walls that are in there and whether those were constructed properly or if they need to put new barrier walls in. So, but we're closer, once the conceptual site model is done, we're closer to becoming, to deciding what we're going to do for the remedy cleanup. And then they start construction. So that, that might be next year, the end of next year or whatever. It depends on how long it takes to get all those documents done and decide what the remedy is.
So my fear with the big barrier walls was they were saying that when they started running the wells, they kind of kept all the plume closer.
Mm-hmm.
So then once they make those barriers to kind of keep it within, then we're just pumping that water to the public is how I see it.
So that's the other reason why we want to make sure the conceptual site model is correct, because you're in an area where you have wells pumping in different areas at different times. So we don't want to miss any, say you got a well pumping over here. Well, is it pulling the plume from here to here? And then they pump over, then they turn this well on, and what does that do with the plume? So that's what we're that's why it's so important to get that conceptual site model right, is to determine where the plume is and how it moves based on what the city does with their wells.
Will this recent flooding impact that then?
It has an impact because you got water moving up, and so you have
So it should give you better readings, right?
not necessarily, because you got you got contamination in the clay layer, and so it'll stick in the clay layer. So when when the water comes up, it saturates that clay layer, then when it goes down, it pulls that contamination back down, so it's better, our water's lower and higher. It just
Okay.
kind of depends.
Sometimes it can make it worse.
Yeah.
When the water's
sometimes
higher.
It pushes it around and, yeah.
Well, and it starts to make what we call it, that when the river comes up, it makes things mobile.
Mhm.
And so the water table starts to infiltrate everything, and then your plume starts to migrate.
That's why I didn't get when they turned all the wells back on in June. Like, they got the okay just because of one reading, 1 week of reading?
They can turn their wells on and off as much as they want. They can't, when the water comes through the water treatment plant and it hits the effluent, when it hits outside the water treatment plant and goes into the public system, it has to meet maximum contaminant levels. It has to be below the maximum contaminant level for any volatile organic compound.
And that's where I thought they went back down to not reading it, was it daily, to reading it bi-monthly or something? So that's.
So Ameren, it started sampling the wells when they were restarted.
Right.
And so there's a whole timeline, I can send it back out, I don't have it memorized, but there's a whole timeline that they have to follow for that sampling. And so I think that's maybe what you're referring to. They were doing it,
And then the
I can't
wastewater
remember,
treatment.
daily or how, I think they were doing it twice a week on
So those,
Tuesdays and
right, so
Thursdays.
there's,
And then based on the
yeah.
results, they could go to less frequent. And that was coordinated through EPA, that sampling
But that was
frequency.
Ameren doing their testing, then I thought the city was doing their own testing at the wastewater treatment, right? Before it got to the treatment center. No,
no, so you have this well here, and so they turn this well on, they want to see what the contaminant level is coming out of this well. But then you have this well here that they turn on, and so now all this water from this well and this well are commingling and going to the plant. So you're diluting your contamination. If you have a contamination here and not here, then when it gets to the plant, it's diluting, so you have a lower contaminant level.
then we're saying the plant wasn't doing their testing anymore.
No, the plant is, by law, they have to test. They have a testing protocol they have to follow.
Yeah, and I thought that's when he was saying they changed it to not be as frequent or something. Or who's the?
No, they
individual in the
stepped it
task
up.
force?
They have to test. They can't change it to, it'd be really hard for them to change that protocol. So I bet you're talking about, when they turn that well on, what Ameren is doing, they have a testing protocol that is agreed upon with the city about how to test the water coming out, and the frequency they test changes.
Then who's the city water person?
That's
John. John Phillips,
John Phillips.
and he may have said that they used to take somebody's testing results that were handed to them, and then in September of 2021, they hired our environmental group 212, and they said, no, we're going to test the water ourselves. And they would test the water, and they would have to wait 3 weeks to get the test results back. But then, last time I asked, they said, well, we're getting it faster because we're paying for it. And that's when they started turning the wells back on.
And John Phillips works for
City.
just the city or?
He's the public work.
Yeah,
Public
Public
Works.
Works.
Yeah, he
Public Works
manages the
director.
public works.
Because I have it in my notes, but it never said where he worked.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So, yeah, and so people get used to talking, and then it kind of flies by, and we forget that we need to go back to getting a little bit.
The plume, does EPA have a 3D dimension of the plumes?
No, I don't believe so. We don't have a
Not
3D.
No.
And because it's a PRP lien, that's why we're doing the conceptual site model to get the vertical and horizontal extent of the plume.
I was gonna say, but the conceptual site model should give you cross sections though, right?
Yep.
So they'll get that out of it.
How close are you with 212?
212 is a contractor for the city.
Yes.
So we are bound by, we are dealing, our role is to get the potential responsible party, which is Ameren. We call them a PRP. Our goal is to get Ameren to clean up the contamination from the source area that they spill, where they spill their contamination. That is our goal. So 212 is over here with the city, who is a stakeholder. So typically, EPA is not supposed to talk to a contractor of the stakeholder. So our communication is with the city.
Okay.
And 212 is a contractor for the city.
But 212 does attend those weekly technical
Yes.
calls, so we do talk to them
We talk to 212
routinely, yeah.
routinely, more than we usually do, because they are in.
Was it at a
tight-
task force meeting we saw the 3D plume?
Yeah, 212 probably has one.
Yeah, 212 has one.
That's just, in fairness, that's just people putting fancy graphics together.
Well, yeah.
Somebody had an intern and went,
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
An intern.
Yeah.
So they may have that stuff, but we can't collaborate with 212 because of,
Well, you gotta collect your own data
Yeah.
for reasons, yeah.
so, yeah, I'm sure they do. But we have to rely on Ameren to do that because they're the responsible party and they're the one.
Yeah, they're paying for it.
And Ameren's consultant firm is 06, right?
I think it's Luero.
Oh, is it?
Loro, yeah.
Okay.
Lo-
So, but they have a consultant firm doing their work.
Yes, they have, I
well.
think they have a couple of consultants
Oh.
firms.
I know I've seen Luero out in
Yeah.
the field.
Yeah, yeah. So they
Okay.
have a couple. So,
What do you want to tell us about PFAS?
What's that?
PFAS.
PFAS?
Yeah.
Is this something new that the EPA is going to be requiring cities to test for, or do cities test for it now?
it's at its infancy because it just kind of got onto the contaminant list. There's something called, you can look it up, it's called the list of lists.
List of lists?
List of lists. In that list, all the contaminants, and if it is a CERCLA, a CERCLA contaminant,
You got this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
she knows. She knows it all.
It's-
So if it's a
a whole
CERCLA
shit.
contaminant, then EPA, that's how EPA determines if we, if it's something that we can make somebody clean up. So PFAS is, and I'm not the expert, so you guys can,
So is it gonna be regulated?
it is regulated now.
Now.
As
But-
of about
April.
weeks
Yeah.
ago. Yep.
So what I have heard, and this is just what I've heard, is it is a headquarters effort. We are following headquarters guidelines. So we have 10 regions and we have headquarters. We are following headquarters lead on PFAS, sampling and cleanup. And they are looking at the big contributors first. Dow Chemical, big contrib-
Non-stick cookware.
Yeah.
3M.
the big 3M. They're also looking at federal facilities. It's probably going to be the first they look at because a lot of the federal facilities use the firefighting foam in exercises, and the PFAS is in firefighting foam. So a lot of those big federal facilities have their own wells, and people drink from those wells. So they're going after the big picture first, is what we hear. But we have also heard that we are to follow headquarters guidance. and their leak.
But will they put any guidance to our drinking water?
Yes, I think cities have 2 years to comply to the cleanup of PFAS in their drinking water. So to put in a system to clean that up. I don't think the city of St. Charles has an issue because they have the gap. They already
Well,
have that system.
And that's what I was gonna ask too.
Well, did they just put that in
Yes.
Yeah.
this
Yes.
year?
Yeah.
And that's due to they knew this
No,
thing was
no,
coming?
no. Well, I don't know if that's why, but they did it because of all the contamination in the well field from Ameren and the PCE, is what I understand.
Yeah.
So, but that carbon filter cleans the PFAS, so, sort of.
But earlier we
TBD.
said
Yeah,
aerating cleans
yeah.
the chloride.
So it's all wrapped up in that. So the city's ahead of a lot of different other water places. But they have 2 years.
Yeah, there's a whole
comply.
schedule on
Yeah.
the website I can send you.
Yeah, but
I
the
can
way
send,
I kind of feel is the city should have been doing something back in 2003, having a game plan to say,
Well, a lot of cities probably should have, but
Yeah.
if it's not regulated, they're not required to.
Our water's going up next year. So our water is going up next year, so. It's gonna be
let's hope
interesting.
it doesn't go up for anything that, let's hope it goes up just the scheduled increase.
But how could you tell?
Huh?
How would you know though? If you're a local resident,
Because 3 years ago, maybe, it was set at different stages for each year that it would go up.
it's every 3 years, right?
The city would do that.
They readjust it.
Ask John, yes. Ask John.
She's being a butthead.
Because if I ask, they'll tell me to do a public service or a.
Yeah, sunshine request.
Sunshine request.
Yeah.
They don't like me. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, because that's still the complaint I'm hearing is their water bill, because I asked more questions from people complaining about, their water bill is okay, but their sewer bills
Our sewer
have
bill has gone up a lot.
crazy high.
Yeah. It's been, our water bill has almost doubled
But,
in the past year.
Dollar wise,
and you
It's
asked,
the sewer rate, not the water.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
and-
dollar wise,
Yeah.
is your water increase hasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
like, people's sewer bills are like $236.
Okay, mine's not that much,
I
but.
can't believe that.
And then it's in the, so you know where Embassy Suites is?
Yeah.
That neighborhood, all through there.
That's where I live, right
Is
behind.
all where those people are saying their sewer bill is crazy high.
Wow.
And that's where I didn't know if it was because of this or.
So the question we
Something
would
else?
need to ask about that is how that's, like, how is your sewer bill calculated? I don't know how, do
They
they
go by that-
calculate how much
It's,
I mean, they can't
Yeah,
calculate how much sewage
Goes
you
off
use.
the water.
yeah, it goes how much you're flowing down. So like the more water you use, your higher your sewer bill is what they said to me. But when you look at these people's,
Well, we don't use more water now than we did 3 years ago, though.
and I looked
Like,
at their.
that's
their
why.
It's not gallons per minute, but I forget what it's on their wastewater bill. It tells you.
It tells
how
you.
much- How it's going through and that's why they're charging you so much. But it doesn't add up. to
But
all
did
these
they tell you anything about changing the rates from summer to winter?
No.
And they're
it's-
supposed to
it's
look
been-
at January, February, and March and see how much water you use, because in the summertime, you're gonna use more water supposedly for watering plants
Right.
and gardens and grass. So that water's not going down the sewer. So your sewer rate shouldn't change throughout the year.
that they're saying from the 4 or 5, I think it was 5 households, were saying that they don't use any more water than normal. And their water bill is pretty consistent to what it was last year, but this year it's jumped up so much on their sewer bill. And that's where they can't check their meters because they don't have meters to check. It's in the
For
ground.
the sewer, yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's,
sewers you don't have, it's just based off of how much water you use.
Right, so there's no way for them to check it, to go back to the wastewater plant or company to verify it.
You can verify how much water you use that each month, back quite a year or more, I would think.
Well, yeah, but what she's saying is you can't verify how much sewer services you use.
Yeah.
And that's-
Exactly, but they can't charge you more than the water you bought.
We like to think.
And that's,
But
I
then
guess,
we'll-
but I will say, I do agree, because, I mean, our water bill is upwards of like $85 now. I don't have kids or anything, there's only 2 of us. And we literally, that's doubled from where it was last year.
Yeah,
And
and me and St.
nothing has
Peter's,
changed.
my sewer bill was, I think it was $34. And then when they're showing me over $200 for a sewer bill, but then again, also I didn't count how many people are in your household.
I mean, that matters for sure, but even $200, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
And that's where
I
I was like, there's gotta be something going on. But those people were like, it's gotta be because of what's happening, the water, the wells, it's all the wells. But
Yeah, that's definitely not, I know John said it was a scheduled
Right.
rate increase. Because I asked him that question too. Have we seen any rate increases from all of this?
But
And
he
he
was
said,
saying this coming year, there's gonna be 2025 for the
There's
water.
gonna be one every year, I believe.
See, I thought he said every 3 years.
Did he
when
say
they
every 3 years?
readjust it and figure it. But then when you look online, the rate on the water place, it's been consistent for at least 5 years that it went back. So yeah, I guess I need to ask that question again then.
well, and also, if you do talk to him, ask him how your sewer rate is calculated. I would be curious to know that. Because again, I mean, you can use as many gallons as you want, but you have no idea how much goes into the sewer. So, yeah, and I can say I have seen a hefty increase on ours. And it definitely is the sewer rate. Which also makes me wonder, like, is there some kind of leak somewhere?
That's what I'm thinking too, 'cause they are right by a creek.
Yeah, there's that whole like reservoir, little retention area down there.
Yeah.
But they don't, if you're in the county, they monitor how much sewage goes into the treatment plant, into the line. But neighborhoods and stuff like that, if you're in the city, they don't. So there's no way for them to say, hey, they'll know if it rains, if the rain's running into the sanitary sewer and they're pumping more water, they know they have a problem that way. But to take a neighborhood and say, well, somebody's increased or a line's broke just in this neighborhood, nobody may
There's no
not
way to
catch that
know,
for
yeah.
a long time.
Yeah, because I know in St. Louis, when they catch that, they go and do that, when they stick that tube down there and put that chemical on it, and then it expands to the sewer to fix those issues. So I wonder if that's something they would have to do.
When they line the sewer, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've done that on Houston Road now because it used to, in a good rain or when the water table was up, it would all seep into the sewer and they would treat it. And
How long ago did they do that on Hester Road?
they just did the last one this year, and that was from where the methane is found in 2 wells or in 2 monitoring wells on Houston Road. From there north under 370 over to well 6 or so.
Could that be where the methane
But I sure wish the city was here to correct me.
You said it was 2 or 3 years ago that they lined that sewer, or you said
This year they did the north section.
that?
Last year, the year before, they did from my property all the way down to on-wheel storage, and then from on-wheel storage up, they just did that also. It's all within 2 years, 3 years all the time.
about rate increases, Ameren asked for a like $17 a month rate increase.
For the second year in a row.
Yeah, I was like, they just had an increase, I remember the meeting and all that, so.
It's because of all.
They gotta pay for those lawyers to.
That's what I said.
They did just buy a bunch of property in Bridgeton.
That's what they said it was for. Their renewable efforts. Yeah. Okay. Anybody got anything else?
So I have something.
Yeah.
You, the publications, is there a better publication that we can use when we push stuff out to like newspapers? Is I think somebody said Mid Rivers is not good for this area, or is it?
It's not that it's not good, no. I mean, it does take
They'll
it,
publish it, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they published it, but
There's
which,
nothing really in St. Charles.
St.
I think,
Charles.
yeah.
like
Other
publications?
than the SDC now.
So St. Charles, so Community News and Mid Rivers are the
Those
two
are-
best that we could
Probably.
use. Okay, good to know. Because you've been doing both to try to get distribution, but if there's a better one.
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
It's the journals.
Yeah.
Merged it with the post.
Cottleville's doing their town meetings due on Monday.
Mm.
The first Monday? Oh, I guess it'd be the second Monday of the month.
What meeting's that?
The Cottleville area is doing public meetings now, not CAGs, but just a public meeting. We could say something at one of those about the CAG, but Cottleville.
What's the
St.
public
Charles,
meeting for?
What people want to talk about in the area.
Oh, okay.
The last one.
That's kind of, I'm not sure that really is.
Yeah.
St. Charles.
Yeah, the last meeting was just stop building apartments.
Yeah.
There are sample results from that sampling that they've done to restart the wells. Those are included in the June monthly report from Ameren. I know it's a lot, it's like 1,000 pages, but all of the lab results are in there for that sampling.
If you don't mind, can you forward me the link? Sorry, because I know I'm gonna look for it later and then not find it.
And then I know we talked about the 5-year review, like when it actually starts, and I looked at the regulations. It starts at remedial action, and that's on-site, already start, like on-site construction.
So it starts at remedial action,
Construction.
construction, okay.
I thought it was construction.
Yeah, so construction start.
And that won't, I mean, that still has to go through the whole ROD process and stuff anyway, right?
Right.
So, I mean,
We gotta wait.
you'll be lucky if you see construction next year, right?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
has to go through all the process. Yep. Hoping.
And then for the meeting recording tonight, I'll just send it to the CAG, and then you guys can, it'll be on YouTube, so you can link to it, or.
good deal.
Are the fact sheets the ones that we distributed in May, and this one, do you guys think those are helpful? Okay.
Yes, I do.
I'll post that one on the site profile page. And then we have a fillable form too for the 5-year review, like questionnaire interview record. So I can send that out once we finalize the fillable form. So it's a little easier for you guys, just email back, you don't have to scan it or anything. Yeah, feel free to reach out if y'all have any questions. If you ever feel like it, I have weekly office hours at Bridgeton City Hall. So if anybody ever wants to
Come up and hang out.
come hang out with me in Bridgeton, or I can meet you guys over here if you have questions or whatever, so. I do
It's been
that
a
too.
nice building over there.
The Bridgeton City Hall? Every Wednesday,
Is that
most
where your
Wednesdays.
office? I've never seen your office over there.
Shaylee got to see it yesterday.
I've never even been to Westlake.
It's not
It's a
pretty.
landfill.
Yeah,
I took Shaylee by there yesterday to show her. and I
Yeah,
was
it's really stinky right now.
yeah,
For the rain.
yeah.
The rain, yeah.
Ooh, I don't miss the word.
I don't take Sunday over, I'm like, oh.
All right, guys. Anything else? We all good? Motion to adjourn?